just continue on from there. Again, like I said, I definitely respected the elders, and then my older teachers. Um, with that, um, finishing up from there, going back to where I was there in the 10th and 11th grade, I wound up joining the military. Um, and in joining the military, I mean by I went into the delayed entry program. I had to get tested for the ASVAB. I didn't study for it, but my Navy recruiter said he was a little inebriated when he picked me up, and he took me to the MEP station to take my test. I was there an hour late. They were going to try to make me come back a different time to do my test, and I didn't feel like doing all that. So I told them, I said, no, let me sit down and take it, and y'all can get the best out of what I get. They even tried to let me take a whole nother hour, which I should have been there for, past the time of everybody else that was already there, and I didn't think that was fair to them, that my recruiter didn't get me there on time. So I just did as best as I could. Come to find out later, I scored a 66, or let's just say I answered all my questions perfect or damn near perfect. And because of that, I was able to choose any program, nuclear programs included. Of course, I didn't want any nuclear programs that, were going to have me with my babies glowing in the dark, was what I asked them, and they laughed about it. Although I would wind up working with nuclear reactor escorts in my first duty station. So, I may not have went nuke, but I was still working around them. They told me that the hospital corpsman was closed up at the time, so I accepted basically small arms, guns, ammunitions as a gunner's mate, with guns as the deciding A school or C school to go with it. But I wanted my bang for the buck, literally. So I'd also had put on my contract where I would go to school, C school, after 4 years completing my time in the service for EOD, explosive ordnance disposal. I learned how to build and take apart bombs safely. But again, come to find out, a year later, let's just say concessions weren't made. I wound up having credits taken away from me in my 12th grade year for missing time in school. Half of it I was cutting just because I wanted to and didn't feel like being in school. The other half I was having problems with my migraines, and instead of getting arguments with my mom for why I was missing school in those days, I just didn't say anything. So she didn't find out about it till almost the end of the school year. By that time, Kurt Schmoke, whose mayor's office was out of Dunbar, had come up with, hey, I'm snatching credits if you didn't do more than you missed more than 10 days out of school, I'm snatching credits. So, it didn't just affect me, but it did affect me in that way. It was going to be more than I was going to have to do making up in Saturday school. And at that point, I was just like, the hell with it. I'll finish up Saturday school, whatever, or I'll just get my GED. But at that point, I was just ready to work and move forward. I was really sick and tired of being in school. Going on from there, so a lot of folks thought that I graduated from high school. I didn't. I had actually, even though I stayed in school up until my 12th grade year, to be honest, my mind and my thought process, I did not have any really, that's the best way of saying it. I don't want to be inflammatory about it, but I didn't value the education I was getting from school. I saw too many inconsistencies, a lot of lies, and not enough explanations. So it caused me issues with my teachers, mainly because once I got the textbooks, I would just read ahead. I'd read everything that we were going to be working on. So it was kind of hard for me to listen to different opinions from my teachers that weren't based upon, basically just the facts of what I saw. And so a lot of times I realized I was being taught philosophy instead of what something truly was or how it was. Um, and I just had a hard time valuing that. I guess I was always wanting to see and understand the truth as a kid for what it was. Just because as a child I was always dealing with confusion, people saying things that they were going to do, and then their actions show completely otherwise. A lot of hypocritical behavior. And I saw how much that was a detriment, not just in my community, but in my own life and in my own family. So it was something I definitely wanted to not deal with. Just to say, moving forward, I got out of school that year early. I think I stopped going to school around March. I was still working part-time, so I started working full-time. And my first official job was Popeyes. But I had been working since I was 11 years old. Doing anything, odd jobs, hustling, legally anyway, as much as I could. Sweeping hair, running errands, doing little odd jobs with different people, whether it was family, friend's house, whatever I could do to make money and change it around. I'd use the flip money buying penny candy and donuts and selling at school at different prices. And that would fuel my arcade habit and, going to the movies just so I'd have extra spending money. A lot of times I didn't get money for chores at home, which, to be honest with you, I don't think you should, because you live there. So that's a part of you're doing your helping your part to clean things up. But we realize that even in my day, as a child, spoiled compared to my parents and grandparents, and that's spoiled. Grandparents ain't no choice in doing stuff around the house or in the yard or wherever. You better do it. You ask questions, you gonna get lit up. So like I said, I kind of learned from them certain things. Moving forward, I've done pretty good at sticking to the script on that so far. Boot camp. Boot camp, I had a moment of truth. Now, boot camp for me was easy. The hardest part was being separated from then. It was my ex-wife. It was hard just being separated because of how close I had gotten her after I got kicked out of my house before I went to the military. I was still 17, so she was somebody I depended on, and she was someone that listened. With that being said, I would spend times and everybody else was asleep or on watch or whatever. I would just go behind my locker, hurry up, get over a few tears, suck it up, get back in my bed. The mental aspect was easy, and the physical aspect was easy because I always stayed in some sort of shape. But I did want to try and lead and sing and RPOC and everything from the front. And I was getting mad that everybody else was getting opportunities over me that weren't, as showing as much bearing. Understanding that, I had a CC, company commander named Chief Crawford, and he pulled me one day and he just said he knew I was sneaky and I was getting into stuff, but he couldn't figure out what it was. So this conversation, I was in push-up position at his door with just my head peeking in. And I had gotten smart with him a couple times, really stupidly. It was a couple times I was disrespectful with my mouth. So I looked in his office, and this dude was the second-ranked heavyweight boxer in the Navy. And I thought he just walked around like Foghorn Leghorn with those very huge forearms, just because that's what Popeye did. Yeah. That man probably could have had me sleep with a touch. And it was at that point that I was like, young man, you better humble yourself. But he had a really good antidote for me. He said, you want to lead? I'm going to teach you another way how to lead. I'm going to teach you how to lead from the rear. So I'm sitting there like, okay, where is he going with this? He made me an athletic PO. Since I was in good shape, since I used to laugh when everybody else would break down, while we were getting what you would call beat, making the walls sweat or rain from physical training. And I would laugh when everybody else would break down, and then I'd be one of the last ones too. When I do, I'd still be smiling like, hey, as soon as everything stopped locking up, I give you back what you want. So he said, yeah, these 15 folks, if they can't pass their PRT, you don't pass boot camp. Yeah. So I had to change up my personal or my selfish thinking for myself. And I had to learn how to, I guess, not be arrogant about what I could do and actually just be helpful to the other people who, were coming out of jobs or out of high school where they didn't have a lot of athletics or they didn't do anything athletic. They were there for college or whatever, or just they had family members that were in the military and they just wanted to do them proud, but they didn't do any type of prior training. So long story short, I got all the guys to pass with good colors, and obviously I got through boot camp. For me, the best part about it was the fact that I learned how to lead from the rear. And I enjoyed it so much, I literally took that into my career, thanks to Chief Crawford and Chief Davila, who was his, was the assistant or the other CC. But that right there taught me well. I think the fact that he was a TM played a role in my orders that I got to the first duty station. Even though I put in a sheet to go to Washington, D.C., they sent my tail to Washington State. To an ammunition depot and experimental weapons testing. Moment of truth. Moment of truth at boot camp. It's just before you graduate and move forward, either out of your schools, your duty station, what have you. And it's a time where it's amnesty, but they ask for things that they need to do to improve and change. And I was trying to keep my mouth shut. And CC, he was like, look, he's like, I know you come from a decent background, but I've heard some things about the place where you came from. I need to know if any of those things are true, and if so, what we need to do to fix it. And he was just basically talking about people that were being lied to at the MEP station, and people that were given either falsehoods or just the wrong things in general when it came to dealing with their contracts. Mine, just to be honest with you, I found out that I could have came back to the Navy, just took my GED and still got in and got the same schools that I had. At the time, they told me that I couldn't have those schools and I had to take what they were giving me. So they took away my C schools. They took away my A schools and told me I had to go to apprenticeship. I didn't have to go in that way. And I wasn't desperate to go in at that time either. But my mom signed me in, and she said that she felt that it was the best thing for me. I kind of felt cornered. So I did it. But like I said, they lied. They laughed and joked when they talked about getting me a diploma from a different school rather than getting a GED, so I would be able to fit for the delayed entry program. And let's just say I didn't enjoy being lied to. So when I told him that, plus also the fact that I didn't even get a chance to take my tests like everybody else, and that my recruiter was drunk, let's just say I found out he wound up getting a 15-year early out, and the rest of the station got in trouble. So when they came back and told me about it, they said, you're going to have to watch yourself throughout your career, because they had a lot of friends, and you're going to probably come across those friends, and they're probably not going to like you, and are going to test you and bother you. You need to watch your back. So I took it. I was like, all right, I get it. No big deal. Then the next few days before moving over to the first school that was there on that base, I was stopped and basically harassed and threatened by about 7 white chiefs, talking about nobody's going to like me. People are going to try and discredit my name. They try to get me kicked out, get me put in the brig, mess up my family, whether it was within there in the military or if it was my family back home. But they were going to be looking out for me, and I need to keep my mouth shut and stay out of folks' business and keep my head down. So, here I am like, man, this is crazy. I've only tried to do what was right. I didn't want to say nothing on what I was dealing with or what I dealt with, but I was asked to. So here I am doing, honor, courage, commitment, showing the right morals and ethics, and I'm being treated like trash for stuff that other people did to me, and I wasn't even 18 yet. Um, and let's just say that was story of my life throughout my career. It didn't matter what I did, how I did it. I always had someone coming with false accusations, and I wound up getting inquiries where sometimes it went from it was a bunch of chiefs behind closed doors, where they were asking questions or doing an inquisition, which a lot of times it was the same thing. 5 to 7 people that didn't look nothing like me, yelling and screaming and trying to bully me to lose my character and act out of the way. Um, let's just say that's what made it extremely difficult for me to retire from the military. One, because they were stifling my promotion, and two, because I had a lot of false accusations, and if I didn't have my ducks in a row and in order, I'd have been had at any one of them, and I'd at least had a red stripe, if that, probably kicked out and never even able to retire. But I thank the Most High. A lot of times I had people that would come to me and say, hey, this is going on, and I hate seeing you go through this. I can't get involved, but here's the information what you need to do to stay out of trouble. A lot of times that happened, and other times, I even walked in on a JAG investigation that I didn't even know anything about, being accused of espionage and sabotage and attempted murder of over 300 sailors. And that basically, I'm coming right off of sick leave from my child, walking in thinking I'm signing regular paperwork, and my JAG investigation starts. And that was the threat. If anything is wrong, anything is off, I can't prove myself and exonerate myself, you gone, man. You going straight to the brig, and you will not see your family anytime soon. 22 years old. But again, it was the Most High, because I had an issue with people wanting to teach me things, usually the older folks who either prejudiced or were on their way out of the military, and they didn't have the patience to teach someone new. I had to learn from books. And so in learning from books and learning from working on my own time, one of the things I did at that particular shop, I wind up working with online fuel tanks. I worked the entire shop on my time off, and sometimes on duty, rather than just going straight home, because I knew I would be a better asset, understanding every part of it, rather than just working and specializing in my one area. This was something that I just did on my own. I didn't need anybody to teach me or tell me to do it. If I was going to be a TM, I needed to be complete. Whether I worked on heavyweights or lightweights. Anyway, because I was able to not only exonerate myself step by step in procedure, but also troubleshoot and show where the procedure was broken when it was done past me and QA'd in a whole nother area. Let's just say the people whose name on it, where it messed up, didn't look like me and had higher rank than me. The shop at that point asked the investigation to be stopped. The JAG officer told me they owe me a great deal of gratitude for me to be able to show them that, even though I was being falsely accused, and to be objective in doing it without losing my cool. Again, I don't give that ain't me, because I would have been arrogant and blown up on everybody about what was happening. But it was the Most High. It was nothing but the Most High for me. It couldn't have been. Because I had no clue what I was walking into. And when I first walked in, I didn't think I was prepared. But every time I had these issues throughout the military, it was the same exact thing. Somehow, some way, I was walking out of a situation that most people didn't. I've watched so many people get framed and caught up in a lot of stuff that just didn't make sense. Lose their careers, and some people even lost their lives behind it. So to say I've had a little bit of survivor's guilt throughout my time, yeah, on all different types, from people that died before their times, people that died on the operating room table in front of me, even people that died right next to me here in Baltimore City, and they're getting shot in the head. I had quite a few harrowing um, events that would bring up PTSD for me and or anxiety. Um, the weird issue I have with my anxiety is a lot of times um, I would deal with it and be able to control it in the worst situations, from guns being pulled on me, being shot at, knife fighting, all types of stuff. And it would be later when I would try to sit down and process everything that I would get really, really anxious about what I just dealt with. Um, that didn't stop from my childhood, and I haven't dealt with it up to, let's say, a few months ago, until I can tell you the Most High healed me in a very strange way and in a strange time. Um, so being open about the stuff that I dealt with in the military, we'll just go that's the same thing that followed me all the way through. Um, and when I got to Iraq, on my way there doing workups, we had issues with guys we had a guy that was, he was date raped, supposedly by a serial killer in California. He was underage. Um, he was basically fed drinks and rooted, and when he came to, everything wasn't where it should have been. Upon tested and everything is when they found out everything. Well, this guy was there like me, as a health service augmentee, away from his command with a whole different group of people. He only knew a few people there, and a few folks tried to keep him under the wing, but then you had a lot of folks. The culture was, hey man, don't worry about that, just drink it away, and it was just destructive for him. So I got to see that, deal with that. And then I had a female Marine who you could tell she was troubled. She was dealing with her identity and what she was doing, and I had people that were around her, but just trying to prey on her, looking every night, hey, let me get her drunk and I can mess with her. And that's not the type of person that I am. And I don't like to see anybody being taken advantage of, especially a female. So let's just say I played big brother to try to keep her out of stuff. Give her advice as much as I could and just let her know what the deal was. Of course, she made her own decisions, did whatever she needed to do. But I was able to kind of help with that, because I just couldn't sit by and see what was going on. Moving forward, getting past working and training in really high temperature weather, treating folks with who had H1N1 when over 100 degrees, 110 degree tents, with gear and everything on, PPE. Got a chance to drop Predator missiles in training. Had a training mortar come through the tent, which of course, even if it had hit you, it was inert, but it was still killed you. And that's when I realized I had a bad issue of wanting to charge where there was a problem versus, let's just say, being smart instinctively and trying to yell out and call for help. I actually was about to charge onto the field to get to the guys, the FOs, whoever it was that was launching them, and attack them, because it came through the tent while we were studying. I was studying advancement with the guys there. And when that came through, we knew we were going to have drills, but when that came through, it not only surprised me, but it angered me. Luckily, I had a gunny that was there that stopped me, and he had a radio and called his people and told them to stop, yelled at them, because the stuff was coming past the fence line, it was coming past the boundaries. But after that, he took interest in me, and just started asking me questions, and come to find out, he had wound up serving right alongside my cousin, who was in the Marine Corps. And he said, it wasn't just the name that kind of haunted him, it was my work ethic. He said, you do hard work just like him. You don't like sitting around not doing stuff like these other corpsmen would do, would just sit here and watch all the Marines get stuff done and then do whatever. He said, just watching you from the side, y'all act just alike. Y'all come from good stock. That made me feel good to know, my family was representing while they were in, and leaving good lasting impressions on folks. Within the deployment, I still had moral issues with things that were going on that I didn't really care to deal with or see. But this was the kicker. This is when I got to talk to some people that were indentured servants, or let's just say they were slaves on contract, coming out of the Saudi Arabia area to work on Iraq as food servants, civil contractors. And it was talking with them and finding about their plight, fact that they same skin tone, color, but just of a different nation, so to speak, going through everything that I was going through. People that in America were going through, and I'd never been given that type of information before to really see it up close. It bugged me. Morally, it threw me for a loop. And then starting to being told and seeing how things were over there versus how we were trained to what we were coming into. So you had that aspect, and then at the same time, while I was on board that base, they were transitioning back to the Iraqi people, the Iraqi nationals, and there was a lot of friendly fire. There were training exercises where those folks, they said, were still part of ISIS, and it infiltrated, it turned and shot up some of our own troops while they were trying to train them. So, I went through quite a little bit over there, not to mention people that weren't following directives and nav admins, and I wasn't getting help from my chain of command back in the States to help make sure that I was showing these folks the right stuff and had all the information I needed. So let's just say here I am feeling abandoned again and stuck dealing with some issues that I didn't want to. The biggest thing though was the spiritual thing. While I was over there, my wife was pregnant in Memphis, her hometown, and she was dealing with shootouts and things of that nature. So I didn't want to tell her about anything that I was dealing with over there. Some of it I couldn't, period. But I didn't want to. You're holding my child. You're having issues as a second child you're dealing with, where you having problems just keeping a kid in the womb. I'm not finna bring that up. But I had a moral and a spiritual dilemma while I was over there, and that coincided once I got back and saw how things started to change with me.